Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to talk about Dragon's Code, which was written by Anne McCaffrey's daughter, GiGi McCaffrey, Pern number 24. But before I get into this book, as always, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this book, of the series, the videos, anything you might want me to read and review. Let me know. Leave a comment below and spread the word. So, going into Dragon's Code and it being Anne McCaffrey's daughter, I went in kind of skeptical but open-minded. I mean, I got a 3.92 rating average on Goodreads, so I figured it can't be all that bad, can it? And the way it kind of started, I was kind of thinking maybe it's going to be, because if we remember this story picks up with Peimer, where Dragon Drums left off, and well, a couple of turns later. But at the end of Dragon Drums, remember, Peimer is like so happy. He's like, I wish I had a drum to tell the world just how happy I am. And here in Dragon's Code, he feels like he was plucked from the Harper Hall and dropped to the southern continent. So there was that discrepancy right there that kind of rubbed me raw a little early. But between that and him constantly feeling lost, feeling like he didn't fit anywhere. And I understand now at reaching the end of the book that it was an integral part of the story, but maybe that's what 3 turns in the South will do to somebody. I don't know. But basically, what this book is about is that you have people from Nabol Hold that are holdless. Lord Minor is no more. And he promised land to kin that he never gave, that they were never going to get. And there are a few who are very disgruntled, and they're talking about taking some land of their own, and by forceful ways. They're trying to think, do we do it through Crom, or do we do it through Ruata Hold? And they start to think maybe Ruata Hold might be the way to go, because, you know, the Lord Older, he's got Ruth, the White Dragon. Jackson's not really looking so much at his hold and it's not as well defended. So they're looking at that. So Peimer basically becomes a spy again, trying to find out when they're going to move and be behind, so he can try to stay one step ahead. Sebel comes down with him, and they're basically, the bad guys are tipped off. And, well, I guess before that, there's another big event that happens. The Southerners have the Southern Weir. Let's say a few members of the Weir, not all, but a few members of the Weir have an idea of how to bring new blood to their Weir, because their Weir's dying. Their queens are too old to mate, and the last clutch that was there was basically a false clutch. None of them hatched. So there's a lot of coughing, a lot of sickness, and a lot of basically decaying going on at the Southern Weir. And we learn about the coughing and the sickness, that it was because that they went to mine Firestone, because they basically isolated themselves off from any of the North. They wanted nothing to do with Bendon and anybody that had anything to do with Bendon. In fact, at the beginning of the book, they say, nobody outside of the Weir comes in, even from Southern Hold. We are completely autonomous. We are completely our own. Nobody comes in or out unless you're Weir folk. That's it. And it's while they're mining this Firestone that there's a cave-in. and all of this like dust comes up, and it's more than just firestone and just dirt. There's something in there that infects the dragon riders and their dragons that are there. And the thinking behind it is that part of the illness is what is driving these old timers to being so, as they would say, where stuck, where they won't wear bound. They won't listen to anybody. They won't conform. They won't not conform, but they won't like change their ways. They won't accept help from anyone. So anyway, the egg gets stolen from Bend and Weir because they have the queen egg. Except it gets stolen back before the Southern Weir can really have anything to do with it. Now, it's stated more toward the end as theory who took the egg back and took it back to Bendon. Because if anybody from Southern Weir would have taken the egg back, it would have been, okay, we forgive you for that. You guys are back in our graces. We don't appreciate it, but we trust you now, at least somewhat. But somebody else does it, and it's probably going to be really unveiled in the White Dragon. But the theory is that Jackson on his White Dragon is the one that does it. And he's also jumping through times and fighting Thread and just doing all this stuff with his White Dragon Ruth because nobody thought that his dragon would live more than a turn. So he's trying to prove to everybody, hey, my dragon is just as good as anybody else's. Stop railing on him. He's just as good as anybody else. He can do just what the other dragons do. So there will be probably more of that coming with the White Dragon. There are some scenes that might be a little bit disturbing for some, where Pymar and Sibel get basically jumped by the guys that are planning to take the lands from Ruata. And Sibel is beaten severely. I mean, like to the point where his knees are like just about shot. He can't walk on them. His shoulder has been separated completely from its socket. Pymar is basically unconscious. It's in the cellars of Nabal Hold. And because he's unconscious and then he wakes up, he's trying to free Sibel. And Sibel's saying, you got to get out of here. Somebody's got to go and get help. I can't move. I'm not going to be able to walk more than 2 paces without falling down. So when they hear sounds coming, Pymar goes, lays down, feigns like he's unconscious, and then he basically runs at them, tackles them, and he gets out of the hole, and he's able to calm down Sibel's gold fire lizard and say, send help. Get help. All of a sudden, Manali and Manali's 9 fire lizards come, and boom, now we got some help coming. And there's a message coming saying help is coming. They're able to so there's some time now that's spent trying to find the way back in, because we have you have a Weir leader here helping, Fort's Weir leader helping along with Manala, trying to figure out how to get back into that cellar, into that below ground where that's gonna be basically bricked off. So he could have been lost like forever. And they're able to find their way in by luck or chance. Somebody tells them, they find the door, but they can't get the door open. The guy's like, you're not going to get the door open from outside. Here's what you got to do. You go in through here, and you take this way, and this way, and this way, and, then you're good. Then you're going to get to where you are, where you want to be. Um, so they take that way, and they're trying to find their way there, and it's just not. Everything's just leading to a dead end. And finally, Pimer stomps the ground, and they notice the dust. Natan doesn't notices that the dust isn't settling to the ground; it's floating in the air. And there's this rotten rotten keg that's like to the door. That's like in the wall. So they remove this keg and they find basically where Sebel is, and he's in really bad shape. And they're carrying him out. And as they're carrying him out, one of the residents of the hold recognizes them and sees just how bad a shape they're in. This comes into play a little later. So they're trying to figure out, okay, where can we go? Where can we take Sebel? We can't really have him go through between because then his shoulder may never heal. We can't just bring in people because it's going to be too. People are going to ask too many questions, and they don't want this getting out. That what happened to the Harpers and what the plan is at Ruata with these guys. It's all to be on the down low. And that being the case, Pimer says, "Well, you know what? I've got some family that I got family that lives in a small cot hold in Crum. Let's just fly directly there." And they send the message, the vision, the images to the dragon, and they go. And they basically are able to heal up Sebel. They put his shoulder back into place, which obviously is painful. And he starts to heal. And we meet Pimer's foster mom, Amma, who is older now, but still very much looked up to. And it's during this time that she just falls ill and then is gone. And I have to admit that this part of the book, it affected me. It hit very close to home. I lost my mom quite a while back, but that pain still lingers. And just reading of how you have the death and the reaction and the grief and all the things that go through your mind at that time just really struck a chord. And I was just like, GiGi, that was pretty good, because it's not easy to do that, to pull the strings of somebody like that and get the eyes watering because you're there. You definitely know what that character is going through because you've been through it. And my other hats off to her is with what she does with Pimer, what his purpose and goal really is, because he could be going around just being, rootless, just saying, oh, okay, I'm, whatever I do, it doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of lost. I don't fit in anywhere. I was always just a voice. But then he remembers something, that there was a route when him and Sebel were in Nabol that was able to basically make them feel good all the way down. And there was an old route from 400 years ago that Maria, the old-timer weird healer, used to use. But they don't know, she doesn't know that this route still exists. Well, Pimer says, what if this is that? And it's with that, really, that Pimer says, okay, I have an idea. And he gets Benaj to travel back. The Weir, at this point, the Southern Weir is gone. They've all gone back 25 years, where they're out of the pass, and they're out of the way of the the other Weirs before they ever really came back to stir any trouble. And the southern Weir is just completely obliterated. There's like nothing there. But Pymar says, you know what, if you come back with me, because I mean, we owe you in a sense. I will be your spokesman. I will be your voice to make sure that you are heard, to make sure that that we can all be united, that we all should be united, because dragons shouldn't fight dragons. Dragon riders shouldn't fight dragon riders. You deserve to live in this time, help fight this pass with us, and be accepted. But you have to be willing to give up that autonomy. You have to be able to accept that help from outside. And I'm willing to help bring that to you. And this is kind of the beginning. You know, here's this route that's going to help you guys basically feel better. You guys are going to stop coughing. Your dragons are going to stop coughing. Everybody's going to feel better. So as he's giving this speech, which is, I mean, it's a pretty powerful speech, it fails. The dragon riders don't go. I think Tron wants to. He gives Pymar a good shoulder squeeze, but just says, just go. So we go back 25 turns, back to the present day. And Pymar's just doing routine work, mapping the southern continent, just really feeling like a failure. When Maria calls his voice, when Maria calls his name, and he turns around, and she says, you gotta come back. You gotta go see Banaj. There's something that he's gotta show you. He's gotta tell you, I can't. So Pymar goes, and Banaj says, I can't tell you, you have to come see. So they fly between and end up at Southern Weir. And they're sitting there. And Pymar is starting to get mad. He's like, okay, I already know I failed. Why are you rubbing my face in this? Why? Well, all of a sudden, boom, hundreds of dragons come. The Southerners come back to this time, this pass. He was able to not persuade the dragon riders. He persuaded the dragons. It was the dragons that told the riders, listen to this guy. We gotta go back and do this. This is what we were made for. And we have to find a way to make it work. Now, I'm sure, this book was written last. But I'm sure Anne McCaffrey had a way of working the old-timers back in to where this all kind of fits. Otherwise, GiGi McCaffrey wouldn't have done this. So as skeptical as I was of this book going into it, and with that early gaffe that she made, I found myself at the end just saying, I have to give it 5 stars. And the reason being, one, the part that hit close to home. It's very, not very often where I read something that just, it makes me feel that emotion that is meant to be conveyed. And she struck that chord with me. And I think just the redemption of not just Pymar, but the redemption of the old-timers coming back and saying, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's do this. And let's see where it all goes. I think was really spot on. I think it was good. So, 5 stars. I liked it. It was a quick read, actually. 331 pages, but it went by pretty quick. Not too tough, but straight to the point. And I mean, it was good pacing. And, I wouldn't mind if she wrote another book, if she was the one to maybe close out the whole Flar and Lessa saga. I like this book better than some of the stuff that Todd wrote in the third pass. So, yeah, 5 stars. I liked it. I would recommend it. So, again, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Spread the word. It always helps. And as always, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.